Every morning at the Grandmont Hotel, Alicia Bennett whispered the same words while pressing her maid's uniform. Today, things change. The wealthy guests who swept past her in a marble lobby never saw her at all. She was furniture that moved, a shadow that cleaned their messes and disappeared. The Whitmores treated her worst of all, making sport of their cruelty, demanding she be fired for imagined sins while the manager watched with a satisfied smirk. 3 years she'd endured this, 3 years of being less than human in their eyes. But today was different. Today, a lawyer named Reeves would arrive with documents that had been sealed for 14 years. Today, the invisible Maid would finally open the letter about her father's death. And today, though none of them knew it yet, the very ground beneath their expensive shoes would begin to shift. Just before we get back to it, I'd love to know where you're watching from today, and if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed. The alarm clock's gentle buzz cut through the darkness at 4:47 a.m., 3 minutes before it was set to ring. Alicia Bennett's eyes opened immediately, a habit formed from years of rising before the sun. In her cramped studio apartment on the east side of town, she moved through her morning routine with practiced quiet, careful not to wake the neighbors through the paper-thin walls. She stood before the narrow mirror propped against the wall, smoothing the crisp white shirt of her housekeeping uniform with deliberate care. The iron hissed softly as she pressed out invisible wrinkles, her movements precise and methodical. Each stroke was a meditation, each perfect crease a small victory against chaos. Today is the day things change, she whispered to her reflection, the same words she'd spoken every morning for the past 3 years. Today is the day I take one step closer. The bathroom light flickered. She meant to ask the super to fix that weeks ago, casting uneven shadows across her face. At 32, Alicia carried herself with a grace that made people assume she came from privilege, not realizing that poise was her armor, carefully constructed and maintained through sheer will. She pinned her hair back in a neat bun, not a strand out of place, and applied the barest touch of lip gloss. Professional, but invisible, that was the goal. In the hospitality industry, the best servants were the ones guests never really saw. The Grandmont Hotel stood like a fortress of marble and crystal in the heart of downtown, its Art Deco facade gleaming even in the pre-dawn darkness. Alicia entered through the service entrance at 5:30 a.m. sharp, nodding to Marcus, the overnight security guard who was counting down his last hour. "Morning, Miss Alicia," Marcus said, his weathered face breaking into a genuine smile. He was one of the few who bothered with courtesy toward the housekeeping staff. "Morning, Marcus. How's your granddaughter? Starting kindergarten next week. Growing up too fast." Alicia smiled, remembering when her own brother Darius was that age, how she'd walked him to school every morning after their father died. Those memories felt like another lifetime, another person entirely. The service corridors hummed with activity as the hotel's invisible army prepared for another day of luxury. Alicia changed into her work shoes in the staff room, where Clara, a 60-year-old woman who'd been cleaning the Grandmont for 2 decades, was already organizing her cart. "You're looking tired, child," Clara said, her voice carrying the soft lilt of Jamaica. "You getting enough sleep?" "Enough," Alicia replied, though they both knew it was a lie. Between her job here, weekend shifts at the diner, and helping Darius with his college expenses, sleep was a luxury she couldn't afford. The lobby transformed as daylight crept through the towering windows. By 6 a.m., it was a symphony of controlled chaos. Bellhops wheeling designer luggage, the concierge arranging theater tickets, fresh flowers being arranged in crystal vases that cost more than Alicia made in a month. She moved through it all like a ghost, dustcloth in hand, polishing surfaces that were already gleaming. "You there? Maid?" The voice cracked like a whip. Mr. Carter, the hotel manager, stood near the reception desk, his pale face flushed with perpetual irritation. At 45, he carried himself with the bitter authority of someone who'd peaked in middle management and resented everyone below him for it. Alicia approached, keeping her expression neutral. "Yes, Mr. Carter? The brass on elevator doors has water spots." Again, he spoke loudly enough for the early arriving guests to hear. a performance of authority. This is a five-star establishment, not some roadside motel. If you can't maintain our standards, I'll take care of it immediately, sir. You'll take care of it perfectly, or you'll find somewhere else to work. He turned on his heel, his Italian leather shoes clicking against the marble like a countdown. Luis, the doorman, caught her eye as she gathered her supplies. The older Dominican man had worked the Grandmont's entrance for 15 years, and his eyes held the sympathy of someone who'd endured similar humiliations. He gave her the slightest nod, solidarity among the invisible. The elevator doors were spotless, of course. Carter knew it, she knew it, but the performance wasn't about cleanliness. It was about hierarchy, about reminding everyone of their place in the careful ecosystem of the Grandmont. At 7:30, the Whitmores arrived. Alicia had seen plenty of wealthy guests, but Gregory and Vanessa Whitmore wore their money like weapons. He was in his 50s, silver-haired and sharp-jawed, with the predatory confidence of old money mixed with new cruelty. She was a decade younger, wrapped in designer clothes that whispered rather than shouted their price tags, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. Finally, Vanessa sighed dramatically as Alicia approached with fresh towels. "We requested these 20 minutes ago." It had been 5 minutes, but Alicia simply nodded. "My apologies, Mrs. Whitmore." Gregory looked up from his phone, his gaze sliding over Alicia like she was furniture. "Are you new? You seem slow." "I've been here 3 years, sir." He pulled out his wallet, extracted a $5 bill, and let it flutter to the floor. "For your trouble." The bill landed near Alicia's feet. She could feel other guests watching, some with sympathy, others with amusement. Her fingers trembled slightly as she bent to pick it up, but her face remained serene. "Thank you, sir." Vanessa laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking glass. "Gregory, you're terrible." But her eyes glittered with enjoyment. The morning wore on. At 9 a.m., breakfast service was in full swing in the hotel restaurant. Alicia wasn't supposed to be serving. That was the waitstaff's job. But when they were overwhelmed, housekeeping was expected to help out without additional pay. She was refilling coffee at a table of young finance types, all aggressive confidence and expensive watches, when one of them, a blonde man who couldn't have been older than 25, decided to make sport of her. "Hey, where you from?" he asked, though Alicia had no accent beyond the careful neutrality she'd cultivated. "Here in the city, sir." "No, I mean originally. Where are your people from?" "I was born here, sir." His friend chuckled. "Come on, you can tell us. What's your real name?" "It can't actually be Alicia." "It is, sir." He leaned back, grinning at his audience. "Say coffee again. I love how you people say it." Alicia poured his coffee with steady hands. The young man, perhaps frustrated by her lack of reaction, made a sudden gesture that knocked the cup over. Coffee spread across the white tablecloth, dripping onto his designer jeans. "Oh shit." He jumped up, laughing. "Look what you did. You spilled it all over me." "I apologize, sir." "I'll get." "Manager." "Hey, manager." He was playing to his friends now, all of them recording on their phones. "You may just ruin my pants." Carter appeared as if summoned by the scent of conflict. His face went through a rapid calculation as he assessed the situation. Wealthy guests versus replaceable staff. The math was simple. "I'm so terribly sorry, sir." "Alicia, clean this up immediately." "I'll have your dry cleaning taken care of course, Mr. Hancock." Bradley Hancock. The young man was milking it now. "These are $800 jeans." "Of course, Mr. Hancock." "Alicia, once you've cleaned this, report to my office." She cleaned the spill in silence while the table laughed and filmed. One of them, she heard later, posted it online with the caption, "When the help forgets their place." But Alicia didn't flinch. She learned long ago that dignity wasn't about what others did to you, but how you carried yourself through it. As she wrung out the coffee-soaked rag, she kept her movements deliberate, professional, almost elegant in their precision. During her lunch break, 20 minutes in the staff room with a sandwich from home, Alicia video called Darius. Her brother's face filled the phone screen, his dorm room visible behind him. At 21, he had their father's strong jaw and their mother's gentle eyes. "Hey sis, how's the glamorous life of the rich and famous?" She forced a smile. Living the dream. How's organic chemistry? Kicking my ass, but I'm hanging in there. Professor Morrison says I've got real potential for med school if I keep my grades up. You will. You're brilliant. Alicia. His face grew serious. The bookstore bill came in. It's $1,200 for the semester. I can maybe get some used ones, or I'll transfer it tomorrow. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Dad would have wanted. She stopped, swallowing hard. You focus on studying. Let me worry about the money. After the call, Clara found her in the break room, staring at her bank app, calculating how many extra shifts at the diner would cover Darius's books and still leave enough for rent. That boy's lucky to have you, Clara said softly. He's all I have left, Alicia replied, then caught herself. I mean a family. Clara squeezed her shoulder. The Whitmores are staying another week. Louise heard them at the concierge desk. You might want to trade floors with Maria. No, I don't run from bullies. Child, there's no shame in avoiding trouble. There's no escape from it either. They're all the same, just different faces. That afternoon, Alicia found herself alone in the grand ballroom, preparing it for an evening event. The space was magnificent, soaring ceilings painted with Renaissance-style frescoes, crystal chandeliers that caught the light like frozen fireworks, windows overlooking the city skyline. She reached up to dust one of the chandelier chains, the crystal cool beneath her fingers. For a moment, she let herself imagine what it would be like to own something this beautiful, to walk through these doors as someone who mattered. One day, she whispered to the empty room, I'll own something like this, something that can't be taken away. The words felt foolish as soon as she spoke them. Maids didn't become owners. The daughter of Charles Bennett, who died when she was 18, leaving behind nothing but debt and dreams, didn't suddenly transform into someone who mattered. But still, the words hung in the air like a promise or maybe a prayer. Evening came with its usual rush. The Whitmores had returned from shopping, laden with bags from stores where a single purchase could pay Alicia's rent for months. They were at the reception desk, Vanessa's voice carrying across the lobby with theatrical clarity. I don't want that maid near our room, she announced, pointing at Alicia. The one from this morning. She has sticky fingers, I can tell. The accusation hung in the air like a poison cloud. Other guests turned to look. Staff members froze. Gregory nodded gravely. We have valuable items. Jewelry, watches. I don't trust her. Carter materialized, his face a mask of concerned authority. Of course, Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore. I'll ensure she's assigned to a different floor. Not just a different floor, Vanessa insisted. I don't want her in our wing at all. These people, you have to watch them. These people. The words were spoken with such casual cruelty, as if Alicia wasn't standing right there, as if she wasn't a person at all, but some problematic fixture that needed adjusting. I understand completely, Carter assured them, shooting Alicia a look that promised consequences. It will be handled. As the Whitmores walked away, Vanessa's laughter echoed off the marble. Alicia stood perfectly still, her hands clasped in front of her, looking at nothing and everything all at once. Louise started toward her, but she gave the tiniest shake of her head. Not here, not where they could see it mattered. That night, as she walked to the bus stop, Alicia pulled out her phone to check her banking app again. $1,700 in savings. At this rate, it would take her 15 years to save enough for a down payment on anything. And that was if nothing went wrong, if Darius didn't need anything extra, if her own body held up under the strain of endless work. But tomorrow she'd wake up at 4:47 again. She'd whisper her affirmation again. She'd put on her uniform and walk through those service doors again. Because that's what fighters did. They got up again. The next morning arrived with unseasonable cold, and Alicia's breath formed small clouds as she waited for the bus. Her phone buzzed with a text from Carter. My office. 6 a.m. sharp. She arrived at 5:45, using her key to let herself into the administrative wing. Carter's office smelled of leather and aggressive cologne, the walls covered with photos of him shaking hands with various dignitaries who'd stayed at the Grandmont. He didn't invite her to sit. The Whitmores are valuable guests, he began without preamble. They spend more in a week here than you make in a year. Yes, sir. They specifically requested you not service their suite. Or the 7th floor? Or the pool area when they're using it? He leaned back in his chair, studying her with small, calculating eyes. They claim you were looking at Mrs. Whitmore's jewelry yesterday. I was delivering towels, sir. As requested. Were you looking at her jewelry? I was looking at where I was walking, sir. Carter's jaw tightened. Don't get smart with me. You're already on thin ice. One more complaint from anyone, and you're gone. No reference, no severance, nothing. Understood. Understood, sir. Good. Now get out. The bathrooms on 3 need attention. The bathrooms on 3 were already spotless. She'd cleaned them yesterday, but she went anyway. That was the game. You played, or you starved. The day deteriorated from there. Word had somehow spread among the guests that Alicia was the one who'd been accused, and she felt eyes following her everywhere. Some guests pulled their purses closer when she passed. Others made elaborate shows of checking their watches and phones after she'd been in a room. At noon, Clara pulled her aside. There's something you need to know about tonight. The corporate dinner. The Whitmores specifically requested you not be there. But Carter's putting you on service anyway. Alicia's stomach turned. Why would he do that? Because he's hoping you'll crack. Give him a real reason to fire you. Clara's eyes were dark with worry. You could call in sick. With what doctor's note? He'd fire me for that too. The grand ballroom had been transformed for the evening's event. A dinner for the hotel's VIP guests and potential investors. Round tables draped in ivory linens. Centerpieces of white orchids and gold-dusted roses. Placed settings that gleamed like surgical instruments. Alicia stood with the other servers in the kitchen, wearing the slightly too large server's uniform they'd found for her. Her usual housekeeping colleagues had been deemed too rough for such an elegant event, but Alicia, with her natural grace, had been voluntold to help. Remember, the head waiter instructed, invisible but attentive. You anticipate needs, not respond to them. She'd been assigned to Section 3, which, by pure coincidence she was sure, included the Whitmores' table. They were seated with 3 other couples, all dripping with the kind of wealth that didn't need to announce itself. The first hour went smoothly. Alicia moved like water, filling glasses before they emptied, replacing plates with ballet-like precision. She learned to make herself small, to occupy space without taking it up. Then Vanessa Whitmore started her performance. You know what I can't stand? She said to her table, loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. When a help doesn't know their place. We had this maid once in the Hamptons, caught her trying on my shoes. Can you imagine? Nervous laughter rippled around the table. Gregory picked up the thread. It's about breeding, really. Some people are born to serve, others to be served. It's not cruel, it's just nature. Alicia was refilling water glasses at their table, her hand steady despite the words washing over her. Vanessa looked directly at her. Isn't that right? What was your name again? Alicia, Mom. Alicia. She drew out the syllables like she was tasting something spoiled. Such a pretty name for a. She trailed off, letting the sentence hang. For a maid, Gregory finished, and the table laughed. A woman at the next table, elderly and draped in pearls, frowned at the exchange, but said nothing. Nobody ever said anything. As the main course was being served, duck à l'orange that cost more per plate than Alicia made in a day. Vanessa raised her voice again. The thing about maids, she said, gesturing with her wine glass, is they always want what they can't have. They see our lives, our things, and they get ideas. She turned to Alicia again, who was standing at the serving station. Don't you get ideas, Alicia? No, ma'am. No? You never look at my jewelry and wonder what it would be like to wear it. No, ma'am. Liar. The word cracked like a slap. The ballroom seemed to quiet, conversations dying as people turned to watch. Gregory laughed. Darling, you're being cruel. Am I? I think I'm being honest. Vanessa stood, swaying slightly from the wine. In fact, I think she's been eyeing my ring all evening. The ring in question was a massive diamond, at least 4 carats, surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like trapped stars. Vanessa held up her hand, making it sparkle. Haven't you been staring at it? No, ma'am. Stop saying that. Vanessa's voice rose to a shriek. Stop lying. I saw you looking at it. Carter materialized as if he'd been waiting in the wings for this exact moment. "Is there a problem, Mrs. Whitmore?" "My ring," Vanessa gasped, looking at her hand. "My ring is gone." The ballroom erupted. Guests stood, craning to see. Vanessa was turning in circles, patting her dress, checking the floor. "It was just here. I just had it." She pointed at Alicia. "She took it. She's been watching it all night." "I haven't been near your table for the last 10 minutes, Alicia said quietly, but her voice was drowned out. "Search her," Gregory demanded. "Call security." 2 security guards appeared, their faces professionally blank. Carter nodded to them, then turned to Alicia. "Turn out your pockets." "Mr. Carter, your pockets." Now, with 200 eyes watching, Alicia turned out her pockets. Empty except for a pen and her phone. The guards searched her serving station, lifting every napkin, checking under every plate. "Check her card from earlier," Vanessa insisted. "These people are clever." Someone brought Alicia's housekeeping cart from the service corridor. The guards went through it methodically, cleaning supplies, fresh linens, the small bag with her lunch she hadn't had time to eat. They dumped it all out on the ballroom floor, her meager sandwich and bruised apple rolling across the marble. "This is ridiculous," a man's voice said. Alicia glanced up to see an elderly gentleman in an expensive suit standing near the back, his face creased with disapproval. But he didn't move to intervene further. "Check under the tables," Gregory suggested. Maybe she kicked it somewhere, planning to come back for it. For 20 excruciating minutes, the search continued. Alicia stood in the center of it all, hands clasped in front of her, eyes fixed on a point on the far wall. She thought of Darius, of her father, of the day she'd stood at his graveside and promised to make something of herself. "Wait," a server at the Whitmores table called out. "I found it." He held up the ring, which had been sitting under Vanessa's chair, clearly visible to anyone who bothered to look. "Oh, thank God." Vanessa snatched it from him, sliding it back on her finger. The room seemed to exhale collectively. There were nervous laughs, people returning to their seats, conversations resuming. "Well," Carter said loudly, crisis averted. "She must have planned to take it later," Vanessa said, not even attempting to lower her voice. After the dinner, when she came to clean, "That doesn't even make sense," the elderly gentleman said, louder this time. "She wasn't anywhere near your table when you noticed it missing." Vanessa waved him off. "They're all the same. Thieves, every one of them." Alicia felt something break inside her chest, not her spirit. That was made of harder stuff, but maybe her faith that dignity could shield her from humiliation. She looked at Carter. "May I be excused to clean up my belongings?" He nodded curtly. "Then you're done for the evening. Report to my office first thing tomorrow." She knelt on the ballroom floor, gathering her scattered belongings. Her sandwich had been stepped on, leaving a mustard stain on the marble. Her apple had rolled under a table where a couple sat, but when she reached for it, the woman pulled her feet back as if poverty might be contagious. Luis appeared beside her, helping her gather the cleaning supplies. "This isn't right," he whispered. "Right doesn't matter here," she whispered back. As she wheeled her cart out, she heard Vanessa's voice one more time. "You have to show them their place, or they forget it." In the service corridor, Clara was waiting with tears in her eyes. "Baby, I'm so sorry." "Don't," Alicia said, her voice tight. "If I start crying now, I won't stop." She changed back in her street clothes in the staff room, her hands shaking as she buttoned her coat. The mirror showed her face, somehow both older and younger than this morning, like time had folded it on itself. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered to her reflection, the word she'd never allowed herself to say out loud before. "I can't keep pretending this will get better." But even as she said it, she knew she'd be back tomorrow, because Darius needed his books, because rent was due in a week, because this was what fighters did. They got up again, even when getting up felt like dying. As she walked through the lobby toward the employee exit, she passed the elderly gentleman from the dinner. He was sitting in one of the leather chairs, reading a newspaper. Their eyes met for a moment, and he nodded, just barely, but with something that might have been respect or pity. These days, Alicia couldn't tell the difference anymore. The cold hit her as she stepped outside, but she welcomed it. It was real, honest in a way nothing inside the Grandmont ever was. She pulled out her phone to text Darius that she'd transfer the money tomorrow, then stopped. Instead, she called him. Alicia? It's late. Is everything okay? Yeah, I just wanted to hear your voice. Rough day. You could say that. Want to talk about it? No. Tell me about organic chemistry. Tell me about anything else. So he did, chattering about molecular structures and lab experiments, his voice excited and young and full of the future she was killing herself to give him. She walked through the cold night, phone pressed to her ear, letting his words wash over her like a promise that somewhere, somehow, things could be different. Tomorrow she'd face Carter. Tomorrow she'd probably be suspended or worse. Tomorrow the Whitmores would still be rich and cruel and untouchable. But tonight, she had her brother's voice and the cold, honest air and the knowledge that she'd stood in that ballroom and hadn't broken. That had to count for something, even if it counted for nothing at all. The morning after the ring incident, Alicia didn't go to the Grandmont. Carter had suspended her for 3 days without pay to let things cool down, he'd said, though they both knew it was punishment for embarrassing him by being publicly vindicated. She sat in Clara's small apartment in Queens, nursing a cup of tea that had gone cold an hour ago. Clara's place was cramped but warm, filled with photos of grandchildren and nieces, crocheted doilies on every surface, and the smell of Jamaica, spices and sunshine somehow preserved in this gray city. You should file a complaint, Clara said for the 3rd time. What they did was wrong. File it with who? Carter? The board that doesn't know we exist? The Whitmores probably donate more to charity in a year than I'll make in my lifetime. Alicia stared into her tea. Rich people like that ruin lives, Clara. Not yours, child. Alicia looked up at the older woman's fierce expression. They can't ruin mine. Not this time. There was something in the way she said it that made Clara pause. What you mean, not this time? Instead of answering, Alicia reached in her bag and pulled out an envelope. It was cream-colored, expensive paper with a law firm's embossed return address. Hendricks, Reeves & Associates. The envelope was worn at the edges from handling, but unopened. This came 6 months ago, Alicia said quietly. I haven't been able to open it. Why not? Because... Alicia traced the edges of the envelope. Because once I open it, things change. And I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of change. Clara reached across the small table and took Alicia's hand. Baby, what could be in that letter that scares you so much? My father. It's about my father. She hadn't talked about Charles Bennett in years. Most people assumed he'd been absent, another statistic. They didn't know about Sunday mornings when he'd take her and baby Darius to the park, pointing out buildings, talking about architecture and dreams. They didn't know about the nights he'd stayed up drawing blueprint for projects that never got built, or the way his eyes lit up when he talked about creating something permanent. He used to take me to the Grandmont when I was little, Alicia said, her voice distant. We'd stand across the street, and he'd say, "One day, princess. One day this place will be ours." I thought he meant we'd stay there, you know, like a vacation. But he meant something else? I don't know what he meant. He died when I was 18, left behind nothing but debt and these crazy stories about investments and partnerships that didn't make sense. Mom had already passed, so it was just me and Darius. I had to drop out of college, get work wherever I could. And you ended up at the Grandmont. 3 years ago. Felt like fate, you know? Like maybe I could finally understand what Dad saw in that place. Alicia laughed bitterly. All I learned is that it's a temple to cruelty. Clara, squeeze her hand. Open the letter, child. I can't. Not yet. That afternoon, Alicia video called Darius between his classes. He was in the library, whispering to keep quiet. Sis, I heard what happened. Luis's nephew goes to school with me. He told me about the ring thing. It's nothing. Just rich people being rich people. It's not. Alicia thought of Carter's sneering face, the Whitmore's cruel laughter, every humiliation she'd endured in those marble halls. They don't know. No one knows except me, you, and one board member who's been protecting your interests, Mr. Jonathan Hale. The elderly gentleman from the dinner. The one who'd watched everything with those careful eyes. I can't. Alicia's voice shook. I'm just a maid. I don't know how to run a hotel. You're not just anything, Miss Bennett. You're Charles Bennett's daughter. And from what I've observed, you know more about that hotel's operations than most of the management team. That evening, Alicia sat with Clara again, the letter now open between them, its contents spread across the small kitchen table. Clara had read everything twice, her eyes growing wider with each page. "Lord have mercy," Clara whispered. "You own it. You actually own the place. I don't know if I can do this." "Can't do what?" "Walk into that building with your head high? Give orders instead of taking them?" Clara's voice grew fierce. "Child, you've been cleaning that place for 3 years. You know every corner, every weakness, every shortcut they take. You know which managers steal and which ones just don't care. You know that hotel better than anyone. But running it is just cleaning on a larger scale. You see the dirt, you remove it. You see what's broken, you fix it." Clara reached across the table. "Maybe you've been preparing for this all along. Maybe you've been cleaning that place because it was always yours. You just didn't know it yet." Alicia thought about all the mornings she'd whispered to herself that things would change. All the times she'd touched that chandelier and imagined owning something beautiful. Her father hadn't just dreamed it, he'd done it. And now it was hers. "They'll destroy me," she said quietly. "The Whitmores, Carter, all of them. When they find out, then don't let them find out. Not yet." Clara's eyes gleamed with something Alicia had never seen before: strategy. "You go back. You finish your suspension. You work your shifts. And you watch them, learn their weaknesses, document everything. And then you show them exactly who they've been stepping on." Alicia picked up the newest letter from Reeves, the one confirming the final transfer of shares would be complete in 5 days. 5 days until she legally owned the majority of the Grandmont Hotel. 5 days to decide if she was brave enough to claim it. She thought of her father, of the dreams he'd harbored, the partnership he'd hidden to protect his family from those who wouldn't accept a black man as their equal in business. He'd played the long game, and now it was her turn to finish it. "They'll see me now," she whispered, echoing her own words from earlier, but with new meaning. "They'll have to see me." 3 days later, Alicia walked back into the Grandmont at 5:30 a.m., same as always. Marcus at the security desk did a double take. "Miss Alicia, heard you were... glad you're back." "Thank you, Marcus." Everything looked different now that she knew it was hers. The marble she'd polished countless times was marble she owned. The chandelier she dreamed under belonged to her. Even the service elevator that had always felt like a cage was part of her inheritance. But she moved through her routine as if nothing had changed. Uniform perfect, cart organized, invisible as always. She had to be careful. Reeves had warned her that until the papers were officially filed, until the board was notified, she was vulnerable. Carter was waiting for her in the third-floor hallway, his face twisted with displeasure at seeing her back. "You're on bathroom duty. All day. Every floor." "Yes, sir." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "The Whitmores complained to corporate about you. They want you blacklisted from every luxury hotel in the country. I managed to convince them to give you one more chance." His smile was cold. "Don't make me regret my generosity." "Understood, sir." What Carter didn't know was that there was no corporate to complain to, just the board of directors, most of whom would soon be reporting to her. The day progressed with unusual tension. Staff members whispered when they saw her, some sympathetic, others clearly believing she'd gotten away with attempted theft. The story had morphed in her absence, each retelling making her more guilty despite the ring being found. At lunch, she met with Reeves in his office. The space was all dark wood and leather-bound books, the kind of place where serious money moved in silence. "2 more days," he said. "The final authentication happens Thursday morning. Friday, we notify the board. I suggest you attend the investor gala Friday night." "I'm scheduled to work it." "Perfect. Work it, then own it." He slid a folder across the desk. "These are the real financial records, not the sanitized ones they show investors." Alicia opened it, and her breath caught. Column after column of irregularities, inflated vendor costs, mysterious consulting fees. And there, repeated monthly, Carter Hospitality Services, LLC. He's been stealing. For years. Him, and several others. Your father suspected it, but could never prove it from his position as a silent partner. How much? Conservative estimate? $300,000 a year. Alicia thought of all the times Carter had threatened her job over a water spot, all the degradation over pennies while he stole hundreds of thousands. Will the lawyers help me? Miss Bennett, I've been waiting 14 years to help you. Your father was a good man who got pushed out by people who thought he didn't belong. It would be my honor to help his daughter claim what's rightfully hers. That afternoon, back at the hotel, the Whitmores were in the lobby. Vanessa saw Alicia and immediately called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. You, Maid, come here. Alicia approached, cart in tow, maintaining her servant's mask. I thought I made it clear you weren't to be in my sight, Vanessa said. I'm assigned to this floor, ma'am. I'll work as quickly as. Give me your manager. Now, Carter appeared within minutes. His servility to the Whitmores almost comic compared to how he treated staff. How can I help you, Mrs. Whitmore? Why is she still here? Vanessa pointed at Alicia like she was indicating a stain on the carpet. I specifically said I didn't want to see her. She's one of our most reliable. I don't care if she's Mother Teresa. I want her gone. Gregory stepped forward, pulling out his checkbook. How much to make this problem disappear? 5,000? 10? I'll write a donation to the hotel's charity fund, and you make her go away. They were trying to buy her termination, right there in the open, like she was property to be traded. Carter's eyes lit up. Mr. Whitmore, that's very generous, but 15,000. My final offer. Before Carter could respond, a voice cut through the lobby. That won't be necessary. Jonathan Hale walked toward them, his bearing suggesting authority despite his advanced age. The board member Reeves had mentioned the one protecting her interests. Mr. Hale, Carter straightened. I didn't know you were staying with us. I'm not staying. I'm observing. His eyes moved to Alicia. And what I'm observing is disturbing. This is a private matter, Gregory started. Nothing in this hotel is private from the board, Mr. Whitmore. And attempting to bribe staff to terminate an employee could be considered conspiracy to violate labor laws. Vanessa laughed. You can't be serious. Over a maid, over an employee. And yes, I'm quite serious. The tension in the lobby was palpable. Other guests had stopped to watch, sensing drama. Fine, Gregory said, snapping his checkbook shut. But we want her specifically removed from any area we might be in. Then perhaps you should find another hotel, Hale suggested mildly. The silence was deafening. Carter looked like he might faint. The Whitmores stared at Hale as if he'd spoken in tongues. Excuse me. Vanessa's voice could have frozen fire. The Grandmont has standards. Those standards include treating all people with dignity. If you can't abide by those standards, there are other establishments that might better suit your needs. Gregory stepped close to Hale, using his height advantage. Do you know who I am? How much I spend here? I know exactly who you are, Mr. Whitmore, and I know exactly what you're worth. Hale's smile was razor-thin, to the penny. Something in his tone made Gregory step back. We'll be filing a complaint with the board, Vanessa threatened. Please do. The board meets Friday evening, right before the gala. I'm sure they'd be fascinated to hear your perspective. The Whitmores stormed off, Vanessa's heels clicking like gunshots against the marble. Carter turned on Alicia the moment they were gone. You, he hissed. My office. Now. But Hale intervened again. Actually, Mr. Carter, I need to speak with you. Privately. Miss Bennett, you may return to your duties. As Alicia walked away, she heard Hale say, We need to discuss Carter Hospitality Services, LLC. The look of panic on Carter's face was something she'd treasure forever. That evening, Louise found her in the service corridor. What happened today? The whole hotel's buzzing. They say Mr. Hale shut down the Whitmores. He did. But why? He's never intervened before. Alicia wanted to tell him everything, but Reeves had been clear. No one could know until the papers were filed. Maybe he just got tired of watching. Clara thinks something big is coming. She says you've been different since your suspension. Quieter, but stronger somehow. Clara worries too much. Clara's usually right. Louise studied her face. Whatever it is, Alicia, we're with you. The real staff, the ones who actually run this place, we're all with you. That night, Alicia met with Clara and quietly told her about Friday, swearing her to secrecy. Clara cried, then laughed, then cried again. Your father would be so proud, she kept saying. So proud. They spent hours going through the employee files Clara had borrowed over the years, documenting every incident of abuse, every covered-up complaint, every time management had chosen wealthy guests over staff dignity. When you take over, Clara said, you'll need to know who to keep and who to remove. When I take over, Alicia repeated, the words still feeling foreign. I don't even know where to start. You start where you always start, with the mess. You clean out the filth, you fix what's broken, and you make it shine. Thursday arrived with unexpected drama. The Whitmores had called in their lawyers, threatening to sue the hotel for Hale's discrimination against them. They set up court in the lobby, making a scene designed to intimidate. Alicia was cleaning nearby when Vanessa spotted her. There she is, the cause of all this trouble. I hope you're happy. Your little victim act has cost this hotel its best customers. I haven't acted like anything, ma'am. I've just done my job. Your job? Gregory laughed. Your job is to be invisible, to serve without being seen or heard. You failed spectacularly. Tell me, Vanessa said, stepping closer. What's it like knowing you'll never be anything more than this? That in 10 years, 20 years, you'll still be pushing that cart, still be cleaning up after people like us. Alicia met her eyes directly for the first time. I don't think about 10 years from now, ma'am. I think about tomorrow. Tomorrow? What's tomorrow? Friday. Something in Alicia's tone made Vanessa step back. There was a quality to that single word, Friday, that carried weight neither Whitmore could identify. You're threatening us? No, ma'am. I'm just acknowledging that tomorrow is Friday, the day of the gala, the day the board meets. Alicia picked up her cart. A lot can change on a Friday. As she walked away, she heard Gregory say to his wife, what did she mean by that? She's just trying to scare us. The help always gets delusions eventually. It's sad, really, but there was uncertainty in Vanessa's voice, a crack in her armor of privilege. That afternoon, Reeves called with final confirmation. It's done. The shares are officially yours. The board will be notified tomorrow at 4 p.m., 1 hour before their meeting. And then, Miss Bennett, you walk into that gala not as a maid, but as the majority owner. I've arranged for proper attire to be delivered to your apartment. Mr. Hale will ensure you're introduced properly. What if they refuse to accept it? They can't. It's not a democracy. You own 53%. You could fire them all if you wanted. The thought was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Mr. Reeves, why did you work so hard on this? 14 years is a long time to chase one client's daughter. There was a pause. Your father saved my career once. When I was young and made a terrible mistake, he could have destroyed me. Instead, he helped me fix it and never told anyone. He said everyone deserved a second chance to get things right. Another pause. This is me getting things right. Friday morning dawned bright and cold. Alicia stood in her apartment, looking at the elegant black dress that had been delivered, the kind of dress she'd seen on guests but never imagined wearing herself. She put on her maid's uniform instead. One last time. At the hotel, the atmosphere was electric with gala preparations. Flowers arrived by the truckload. Caterers commandeered the kitchen. Musicians tuned instruments in the ballroom. Carter was everywhere, barking orders, stress radiating from every pore. The Whitmores had made good on their threat to attend the board meeting, planning to demand Alicia's termination in person. Carter spotted her. The Whitmores specifically requested you serve their table tonight. Sir, they want to prove a point to the board, that you're just a maid and they're important donors. So you'll serve their table, you'll be perfect, and you'll remind everyone of the natural order of things. Yes, sir. Carter walked away, not seeing Alicia's small smile. The natural order of things was about to change dramatically. At 3 p.m., Alicia slipped out, telling Clara she was taking a break. She went home, showered, and carefully put on the black dress. It fit perfectly, transforming her from invisible servant to someone who commanded attention. She looked in the mirror and saw her father's eyes looking back, determined, intelligent, ready. Okay, Dad, she whispered. Let's go get her hotel. At 4 p.m., as Alicia rode in a hired car back to the Grandmont, She knew Reeves was walking into the board meeting with his briefcase full of documentation. She imagined their faces as he laid out the papers, as he explained that the maid they'd ignored, humiliated, and tried to destroy was actually their boss. At 4:47 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from Reeves, done. They're in shock. Hale is handling it beautifully. See you at 5:30. At 5:15 p.m., Alicia walked through the front doors of the Grandmont. Not the service entrance, but the main doors like a guest. Like an owner. Marcus at the security desk didn't recognize her at first. When he did, his eyes went wide. Miss Alicia? Hello, Marcus. Is the board still meeting? Yes, ma'am, but... Thank you. She walked toward the boardroom, her heels clicking on the marble with the same authority she'd heard from so many guests. Several staff members stopped and stared, unable to reconcile this elegant woman with the maid they knew. Outside the boardroom, she could hear raised voices. The Whitmores were inside, their indignation carrying through the heavy doors. This is ridiculous. A maid can't own a hotel. She's not qualified. She's not even educated. This has to be fraud. Alicia took a breath, thought of her father, her mother, Darius, Clara, Luis, and every moment of humiliation that had led to this. Then she opened the door and walked in. The room fell silent. The board members, 5 older white men and 1 woman, sat around a polished table. The Whitmores stood at one end, their lawyers beside them. Hale sat calmly at the other end, a slight smile on his face. Reeves stood by a presentation screen showing the ownership documents. Gentlemen, Alicia said, her voice carrying the same quiet strength that had gotten her through 3 years of servitude. Ladies, I believe we have business to discuss. Vanessa Whitmore's face went white, then red, then white again. You, me, this is impossible. Improbable, perhaps, but not impossible. Alicia moved to the head of the table, the seat that belonged to the majority shareholder. My name is Alicia Bennett. My father was Charles Bennett, and as of 4 p.m. today, I own 53% of the Grandmont Hotel. Gregory slammed his hand on the table. This is a joke. No joke, Mr. Whitmore. Reeves pulled out more documents. Miss Bennett's ownership is legal, binding, and uncontestable. But she's a maid. Vanessa's voice cracked with hysteria. I was a maid, Alicia corrected. Now I'm your landlord, and we need to discuss your behavior toward my employees. The board meeting was scheduled to last an hour. It went for 2. By the end, Carter had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The Whitmores had been informed their behavior was under review, and 3 board members had offered their resignations rather than face scrutiny over their financial dealings. As the meeting ended and people filed out toward the gala, Vanessa Whitmore stopped in front of Alicia. You think you've won? I think I've started. We'll destroy you. You don't know how this world works. You're right. I don't know how your world works. Alicia met her gaze steadily. But this isn't your world anymore. It's mine. The gala was about to begin. In the ballroom, hundreds of guests were gathering, unaware that the power structure of the Grandmont had just shifted completely. Alicia stood at the threshold, no longer carrying a tray, but carrying the weight of her father's dream realized. Enjoy tonight, she said to the Whitmores, echoing Vanessa's own words from days before. It's the last time things will be like this. The Grandmont's ballroom blazed with light from 3 massive chandeliers, their crystals casting rainbow patterns across the ivory tablecloths below. Members of the city's elite filed in, their jewelry catching the light, their laughter mixing with the soft jazz from the quartet in the corner. This was the annual investor gala, the crown jewel of the hotel's social calendar. Alicia stood just outside the service entrance, having changed back into her server's uniform one final time. Reeves had advised against it, but she wanted them to see the transformation happen before their eyes. The black dress waited in a garment bag in the manager's office, her office now, though no one knew it yet. Inside, the Whitmores held court at their usual table, having recovered from the board meeting shock enough to put on their public faces. Vanessa's laugh carried across the room, sharp and brittle. Can you believe it? She was saying to their table mates. They actually try to convince us that Hotel Maid owns this place. The lengths people will go to for attention. Gregory nodded, swirling his whiskey. The lawyers will sort it out by Monday. It's clearly fraud. Someone's using that poor girl to run some kind of scam. At 7 p.m. sharp, Alicia entered the ballroom carrying a tray of champagne. The room was packed. 300 guests, all of whom had no idea their world was about to tilt on its axis. She moved through them with practiced invisibility, though she noticed Jonathan Hale watching her from his position near the stage. Carter had returned despite his supposed administrative leave, strutting around like he still ran the place. He spotted Alicia and immediately approached, his face flushed with alcohol and anger. "You," he hissed, low enough that nearby guests wouldn't hear. "I don't know what game you're playing with that lawyer, but it ends tonight. The Whitmores have offered to buy whatever shares you supposedly have. Take the money and disappear. I'm just serving drinks, Mr. Carter. Don't play dumb with me. 50,000 cash. That's more than you'd make in 2 years. The champagne's getting warm, sir." His jaw tightened. "You're done. After tonight, you'll never work in this city again." As if on cue, Vanessa Whitmore's voice rang out. "Oh, look, everyone. Our special server is here." The crowd near their table turned to look. Vanessa stood, raising her glass in mock toast. "This is Alicia, everyone. She's been with us for years, haven't you, dear? Always so reliable." The condescension dripped like honey. Several guests chuckled uncomfortably. "In fact," Vanessa continued, her voice carrying across the ballroom, "she's so dedicated that she tried to claim she owns the hotel. Can you imagine? It's sweet, really, how they sometimes get confused about their place." More laughter, nervous but real. Alicia stood perfectly still, tray balanced, expression serene. She could feel every eye in the room on her, some sympathetic, most amused, all seeing her as exactly what she appeared to be, the help. Gregory stood beside his wife. "It's actually sad when you think about it. The delusions of grandeur. We're looking into getting her some help. Psychological help," Vanessa clarified loudly. "These situations, where servants begin to believe they're equals, it's more common than you'd think." The moment stretched taut. 300 members of high society, all waiting to see how the maid would react to being publicly diagnosed as delusional. Then Jonathan Hale's voice cut through the room. "Actually, Mrs. Whitmore, I think now would be the perfect time for clarity." He walked to the stage, tapping the microphone. The jazz quartet stopped playing. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue with dinner, there's an important announcement regarding the ownership of the Grandmont Hotel." Carter rushed toward the stage. "Mr. Hale, this isn't the time." "Sit down, Mr. Carter. You're no longer in a position to decide anything." Security guards, Alicia noticed they were new faces, not the usual team, positioned themselves near Carter. He sat, his face going pale. Reeves walked onto the stage, carrying his leather portfolio. The projector screen descended behind them. "Good evening," Reeves began, his courtroom voice filling the space. "I'm James Reeves of Hendricks, Reeves and Associates. I'm here to confirm that as of 4 p.m. today, controlling interest in the Grandmont Hotel has officially transferred to its rightful owner." The room buzzed with whispers. Vanessa laughed loudly. "This is ridiculous. Everyone knows Harold Whitman's estate owns." "Owned," Reeves corrected. Past tense. He clicked a remote, and documents appeared on the screen. In 1995, Charles Bennett invested $2 million in the Grandmont Hotel, acquiring 41% of the shares as a silent partner. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Several older board members who remembered Charles Bennett shifted uncomfortably. Due to racial prejudices at the time, Reeves continued, his voice hardening, Mr. Bennett was forced to remain a silent partner. But his shares were real, legal, and binding. More documents appeared, contracts, notarized signatures, bank transfers. Upon Mr. Bennett's death in 2011, these shares were held in trust for his daughter. With the recent sale of Harold Whitman's estate shares, which Mr. Bennett's trust had right of first refusal on, his daughter now owns 53% of the Grandmont Hotel Corporation. The ballroom was dead silent. "His daughter," Reeves said, gesturing to where Alicia still stood with her tray, "is Alicia Bennett." The silence exploded into chaos. Glasses dropped, chairs scraped back, Voices rose in disbelief. Vanessa Whitmore's face went from red to white to gray. "No," she said, her voice cracking. "No, that's impossible. She's a maid." A photograph appeared on the screen. 8-year-old Alicia with her father in front of the hotel, his arm around her shoulders, both of them smiling at the camera. Then another document, Alicia's birth certificate, connecting her to Charles Bennett. Then another, the final transfer papers, signed and notarized. Alicia set down her tray on the nearest table and walked to the stage. Every step was deliberate, measured, the walk of someone who had nothing left to prove. The crowd parted before her, some in shock, some in awe, some already calculating what this meant for them. She took the microphone from Reeves. "Good evening," she said, her voice calm and clear. "My name is Alicia Bennett. My father was Charles Bennett, and as Mr. Reeves has explained, I am now the majority owner of the Grandmont Hotel." "This is fraud," Gregory Whitmore shouted. "This is—" "Mr. Whitmore," Alicia interrupted, her voice still calm. "Please sit down." The authority in her voice was unmistakable. Gregory sat, his mouth still open. Effective immediately, Alicia continued. "Mr. Carter is terminated for embezzlement. Security will escort him from the premises after we conclude here." Carter tried to stand, but the security guards placed hands on his shoulders. Also effective immediately, any guest who has been documented harassing, abusing, or demeaning staff members will be reviewed for potential banning from the property. Vanessa found her voice. "You can't do this. You don't have the authority." "I have 53% authority, Mrs. Whitmore. That's more than enough." Alicia looked out at the crowd, many of whom she'd served for years, all of whom had looked through her like she was invisible. The Grandmont Hotel has been many things to many people. To some, it's been a playground where wealth excuses cruelty. To others, it's been a workplace where dignity was a luxury they couldn't afford. That ends now. She clicked the remote. A new slide appeared, the hotel's actual financial records, showing the systematic embezzlement. Over the past 5 years, several members of management have stolen nearly $2 million from this hotel. That money should have gone to proper wages, benefits, and maintenance. Instead, it went to fake consulting fees and inflated vendor contracts. More gasps. Several investors pulled out phones, probably calling their lawyers. Every employee who has been underpaid will receive back pay. Every instance of abuse that was covered up will be investigated. And every person in management who participated in or enabled this culture of theft and cruelty will be removed. "You can't run a hotel." Vanessa screamed, mascara running down her cheeks. "You don't know anything. You're just a maid." Alicia turned to face her directly. "You're right, Mrs. Whitmore. I was a maid. I cleaned your rooms, washed your sheets, picked up your champagne glasses when you threw them at walls in your tantrums. I know exactly how this hotel runs, because I'm one of the people who actually ran it." She addressed the crowd again. "I know many of you are skeptical. A maid becoming an owner seems like a fairy tale, or maybe a nightmare, depending on your perspective. But I know this hotel intimately. I know its every strength and weakness, and I know how to make it better. This is insane." Gregory Whitmore stood again. "We'll sue. We'll." "Mr. and Mrs. Whitmore," Alicia said, her voice finally showing an edge, "you're no longer welcome at the Grandmont Hotel. Security will escort you out." "What?" "You're banned. Your treatment of staff, particularly your false accusation about the ring, makes you a liability to our new standards of operation." The security guards moved toward the Whitmores' table. Vanessa grabbed her purse, her hands shaking. "You'll regret this," she hissed at Alicia. "You have no idea what you've started." "No, Alicia Bennett. I know exactly what I'm ending." As the Whitmores were escorted out, their protests echoing through the ballroom, Alicia turned back to the remaining guests. "Anyone who wishes to leave may do so. No questions asked. But for those who stay, know that the Grandmont Hotel will be different moving forward. Better, more just, more worthy of its beauty." An elderly woman in pearls, the one who'd frowned at the ring incident, started clapping. Slowly, others joined. Not everyone, but enough. Enough to begin. By midnight, the gala was over, but Alicia's work had just begun. She sat in what had been Carter's office, now hers, with Reeves, Hale, and surprisingly, Luis and Clara, whom she'd insisted on including in her transition team. They'll come at you hard, Hale warned. The Whitmores have connections. Media, banking, city officials. As if to underscore his point, Reeves's phone buzzed. He checked it and frowned. It's starting. Someone leaked a video from a gala, edited to make it look like you had security throw them out without cause. It's already viral. Alicia pulled out her laptop. The video was everywhere, titled Crazy Maid Power Trip, and When the Help Goes Wild. The comments were brutal, racist, and getting worse by the minute. We need to respond, Luis said. No, Alicia said. We need to prepare. This is just the first wave. She was right. By Saturday morning, 3 major news outlets had picked up the story, each with increasingly sensational headlines. Hostile takeover. How a maid seized control of luxury hotel was the kindest one. Then came the financial attack. The hotel's primary lender, First National Bank, sent an emergency notice. The change of controlling ownership had triggered a review clause. Unless Alicia could prove financial stability within 48 hours, they would freeze the hotel's operating accounts. That's illegal, Reeves said, reading the notice. It's a gray area, Hale corrected. They're claiming concern about operational continuity. Someone tipped them off, Clara said. The Whitmores. Or Carter, Luis suggested. He still has friends everywhere. Alicia's phone rang. It was Darius. Sis, are you okay? There are reporters at my dorm. They're asking about Dad, about you, about everything. Don't talk to them. I'll send a car to bring you here. Alicia, some of what they're saying, did Dad really have to hide his ownership because he was black? Yes. And you really own the hotel now? Yes. Then why do you sound scared? She looked at the team around her, all watching her with concern. Because owning something and keeping it are 2 different fights. By Saturday afternoon, more problems emerged. The health department showed up for a surprise inspection, citing anonymous complaints about pest infestation. The fire marshal arrived an hour later, claiming reports of code violations. They're trying to shut us down, Luis said, watching the inspectors swarm the kitchen. Let them look, Alicia said. Clara, pull all our inspection records for the last 3 years. Reeves, I need you to contact that reporter from the Times, the one who covered hotel corruption last year. Luis, get all department heads in the conference room in 20 minutes. You have a plan? Hale asked. My father hid in the shadows because he had to. I won't make that mistake. The department heads were nervous, some openly hostile. These were Carter's people, promoted for loyalty rather than competence. You have a choice, Alicia told them. Work with me to expose and fix the problems in this hotel, or leave now with severance. But if you stay and I find out you're sabotaging operations, you'll face legal consequences. The head of housekeeping, a woman who'd always sneered at Alicia, spoke first. You're out of your depth. This place will collapse within a week. Then leave. 3 department heads walked out, but 4 stayed, including the head chef, who surprised everyone by saying, Carter forced me to use his overpriced vendors. I have all the emails if you need them. I need them. By Saturday evening, Alicia had enough documentation to paint a picture of systematic corruption. But the health inspector had found something. Mouse droppings in a storage closet that Luis swore had been cleaned that morning. Someone planted them, Luis insisted. I know, but proving it is another matter. Then Clara had an idea. The security cameras. The new system Carter installed last year. He thought we didn't know, but it records everything, even the service areas. They found it, footage from 5 a.m. that morning of someone in a maintenance uniform entering the storage closet with a small bag, spreading something on the floor, then leaving. The person's face was hidden, but the timestamp was clear. That's 30 minutes before the inspector arrived, Reeves noted. Someone told them exactly where to look. Alicia called the health inspector back, showed him the footage. His face darkened. This is a crime, he said. Tampering with an inspection. I need to report this. Please do. Sunday brought new challenges. The Whitmores had hired a PR firm to destroy Alicia's reputation. Stories about her father's questionable business practices appeared online, mixing truth with lies so skillfully it was hard to separate them. But Alicia had her own weapons. The chef wasn't the only one with documentation. 3 more employees came forward with evidence of Carter's schemes. Inflated invoices, kickbacks, even proof he'd been selling information about celebrity guests to tabloids. "We need to go public with this," Reeves advised. "Not yet. Let them think they're winning." On Sunday afternoon, Gregory Whitmore himself showed up with a team of lawyers and a proposal. $15 million, he said without preamble. "You sign over your shares to a trust one control, keep a ceremonial title, and walk away rich." "No, $20 million. Mr. Whitmore, you tried to buy my termination for $15,000. Now you're offering $20 million. What changed?" His jaw tightened. "You're going to fail. The hotel will bankrupt within 6 months under your leadership. Take the money and run. Like my father was supposed to. Your father was smart enough to stay silent. My father was forced to stay silent. I'm not." Alicia stood. "The answer is no. And if you step foot in this hotel again, I'll have you arrested for trespassing. You're making a mistake. I'm making a choice. There's a difference." After he left, Hale revealed something crucial. "I've been tracking the Whitmores' finances. They're over-leveraged. They need the hotel as collateral for a major development deal. If they can't control it, they lose everything," Alicia finished. "Within 6 months. That changed things. This wasn't just about ego or prejudice. The Whitmores were fighting for their financial lives." By Sunday night, Alicia had a plan. She called a staff meeting for Monday morning, then sent a press release to every major media outlet. "New owner of Grandmont Hotel to hold public town hall on corruption and reform." "You're declaring war," Hale said. "No, I'm declaring transparency. They can't fight what everyone can see." Monday morning came with a crowd. Reporters, staff, even some brave guests gathered in the ballroom. Alicia stood at the podium, no longer in a maid's uniform or an evening gown, but in a simple, elegant business suit. "Good morning. I'm Alicia Bennett, and I own this hotel." She clicked the remote. The screen filled with financial documents. For the past 5 years, management has stolen approximately $2 million from this hotel through fraudulent consulting fees, inflated vendor contracts, and outright embezzlement. Gasps from the reporters. Cameras clicked frantically. Here's the proof. Document after document appeared. Carter's shell company, the fake invoices, the kickbacks. Then came the security footage of the planted evidence. Someone tried to frame this hotel for health violations to force our closure. We have video evidence of the attempted frame-up, which has been turned over to authorities. She clicked again. Photos appeared of wage statements. While management stole millions, housekeeping staff haven't had a raise in 4 years. That changes now. Effective immediately, all hourly workers receive a 20% raise and full health benefits. The staff and the audience erupted in applause. Some were crying. But Mr. Carter wasn't alone. More documents appeared. Several prominent guests participated in and benefited from his corruption, receiving kickbacks for steering business to the hotel. She didn't name the Whitmores directly, but their company's logo was clearly visible on several documents. A forensic audit is underway. Anyone involved will face legal consequences. A reporter raised her hand. "Miss Bennett, how does a maid know how to run a luxury hotel?" "By actually running it. Every day, for 3 years, I and my colleagues, the housekeepers, doormen, maintenance staff, we ran this hotel. Management just took the credit and the profits." "What about the Whitmores' claims that you're unqualified?" "The Whitmores are banned from this property for documented harassment of staff. Their opinions are irrelevant." Another reporter. "There are rumors of a hostile takeover attempt. Anyone who wants to buy my shares can make an offer. But I'm not selling. This hotel was my father's dream, paid for with money he earned honestly and invested wisely despite facing discrimination that would have broken lesser men. I'm not just keeping his dream alive, I'm making it better." By noon, the narrative had shifted. Hashtag Justice for Alicia was trending. Former employees came forward with their own stories of abuse and wage theft. The state attorney general announced an investigation into the embezzlement. But the Whitmores weren't done. That afternoon, a process server arrived with lawsuit papers, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with business relations. "They're trying to bury you in legal fees," Reeves explained. Then we bury them in truth. Alicia had Clara release the full, unedited video from the ring incident at the gala. Vanessa clearly planning the ring, then accusing Alicia. She had Luis release the audio recordings he'd made of Carter's threats over the years. She had the chef release the email showing Carter forcing him to use overpriced vendors. By Monday evening, the Whitmores' lawyers were calling Reeves, suggesting a mutual resolution. They want to settle, Reeves reported. No, they want this to go away. Those are different things. Tuesday morning brought unexpected allies. 3 major investors who'd been at the gala called, offering bridge funding to handle the bank's pressure. A prominent civil rights organization offered legal support. The Hotel Workers Union, which Carter had fought for years to keep out, asked to meet about organizing. You're winning, Hale told her. I am surviving. Winning comes later. That afternoon, she met with the bank's executives. They'd expected to intimidate her. Instead, she presented them with a business plan that would double the hotel's revenue within 2 years, backed by signed letters of intent from new corporate clients who wanted to support ethical luxury. Moreover, she added, if you call our loans, I'll make sure every newspaper in the country knows you tried to destroy a black-owned business that was exposing corruption. How's that for publicity? They agreed to maintain the current terms. By Tuesday night, Carter had been arrested on embezzlement charges. The Whitmores had withdrawn their lawsuits, and the health department had issued a formal apology for the irregularities in their inspection. Alicia stood in her office, really hers now, looking out at the city lights. Clara knocked and entered. The staff wants to know what comes next. We rebuild. We make this place what it should have been all along. And the Whitmores? They'll destroy themselves. Hale was right. They're over-leveraged and out of time. In 6 months, they'll be the ones looking for work. You can help them. Show mercy. Alicia thought about every humiliation, every cruel word, every moment she'd been made to feel less than human. I'll show them exactly as much mercy as they showed me. They're banned from the hotel. Beyond that, they're on their own. Clara nodded. Your father would be proud. I hope so. I know so. You didn't just take back the hotel. You took back your dignity. And you gave us ours. As Clara left, Alicia's phone buzzed. A text from Darius saw the news. You're amazing. Dad would be more than proud. He'd be amazed. Alicia smiled, then looked at the portrait of her father she'd hung, where Carter's vanity shots used to be. We did it, Dad. We actually did it. But even as she celebrated this victory, she knew the real work was just beginning. Owning the hotel was one thing. Transforming it into something worthy of her father's dream, and her own, would be the true test. 2 weeks had passed since the gala revelation, and the Grandmont Hotel was transforming before everyone's eyes. Alicia stood in the main lobby at 6 a.m., but not alone this time. Clara stood beside her as the new housekeeping director and Luis as director of guest experience, both wearing badges that reflected their true worth for the first time. The new contracts are ready, Reeves announced, entering with a stack of papers. 3 major corporations want to book their annual conferences here. They're calling it conscientious luxury. The hotel was buzzing with different energy now. Staff members walked taller, smiled genuinely, engaged with guests as equals providing a service, not servants begging for approval. Miss Bennett, Marcus approached, now head of security, the detective called. Carter's trying to make a deal. He wants to testify about the others involved in exchange for a lighter sentence. Let him talk, Alicia said. The truth needs to come out. That afternoon, she called a full staff meeting in the ballroom. Every employee was there, from maintenance to management, all sitting together without the old hierarchy's invisible barriers. 2 weeks ago, everything changed, Alicia began. But change isn't just about new ownership. It's about new culture, new respect, new possibilities. She clicked the remote. The screen showed renovation plans. We're not just updating the hotel physically. We're updating what it means to work here. Another click. The Bennett Hospitality Scholarship Fund will provide full college tuition for employees' children, continuing education for anyone who wants to advance, profit sharing for all full-time employees. The room erupted in applause. Some were crying openly. But I need your help, Alicia continued. You know this hotel's problems better than anyone. I want your ideas, your solutions. There's a suggestion box in the break room, but even better, my door is actually open. An older maintenance worker raised his hand. What about the guests who treat us like we used to be treated? Zero tolerance. Any guest who harasses or demeans staff gets one warning. Second offense, they're banned. No exceptions, no matter how much money they have. The new policy was tested that very evening. A wealthy tech executive, drunk on expensive whiskey, grabbed a young waitress inappropriately. Within minutes, security was there. Within 10 minutes, he was outside with his belongings, his company informed of his behavior, and his corporate account canceled. Word spread quickly through the city's elite circles. The Grandmont had standards now, and they weren't negotiable. Wednesday morning brought unexpected visitors. The hotel workers' union representatives arrived for their meeting, but they weren't alone. 30 workers from other luxury hotels came with them. "We want to work here," one said simply. "We want to work somewhere that respects us." Alicia hired 12 on the spot, all victims of wage theft or abuse at their previous positions. Meanwhile, the forensic audit was revealing deeper corruption. Carter hadn't just stolen money. He'd been selling guest information, enabling corporate espionage, even facilitating illegal deals in the hotel's private meeting rooms. "This goes beyond embezzlement," the lead investigator told Alicia. "This is organized crime. Then treat it as such." Thursday brought drama of a different kind. Vanessa Whitmore, despite being banned, tried to enter the hotel for her nephew's wedding reception. Marcus stopped her at the door. "I have rights," she screamed. Phone's already recording. "This is discrimination." Alicia came down personally. "Mrs. Whitmore, you were banned for documented harassment of staff. That ban stands. My nephew's wedding can proceed without you, or the entire event can be moved to another venue. Your choice." Gregory appeared, his face haggard. The last 2 weeks had aged him visibly. "Please, just for today. We'll stay away after this. You should have thought of that before you tried to destroy me." Alicia's voice was calm but firm. "Actions have consequences. You taught me that." The video of Vanessa being turned away from her own nephew's wedding went viral, but this time, public opinion sided with Alicia. Comments flooded in from service workers worldwide, sharing their own stories of abuse by the wealthy. By Friday, 3 more major hotels had announced new dignity policies protecting their workers. The movement Alicia had started was spreading. That evening, Darius arrived for the weekend. Alicia gave him a tour of the hotel. Not the service corridor she'd once hidden in, but the grand spaces, the office that was now hers, the ballroom where everything had changed. "This is incredible, sis. But are you happy?" She considered the question. "I'm not unhappy. I'm purposeful. For the first time in my life, I can make real change. Dad would be so proud. I've been thinking about him a lot. What he sacrificed, what he endured. He played the long game because he had to, but he made sure I wouldn't have to hide." Saturday morning, Hale arrived with news. The Whitmores' main development deal fell through. Without the hotel as collateral, they couldn't secure financing. They're filing for bankruptcy. That was fast. They were more leveraged than even I knew. They have to sell everything. Houses, cars, jewelry. Everything. Alicia felt something. Not satisfaction exactly, but a sense of cosmic justice. What will they do? What everyone does when they lose everything. They'll have to work. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. That afternoon, a surprising application crossed Alicia's desk. A woman named Jennifer Thompson, applying for a housekeeping position. The resume was sparse, but something about the handwriting looked familiar. "Run a background check," Alicia told Marcus. The results were shocking. Jennifer Thompson was Vanessa Whitmore, using her maiden name. She was applying to work as a maid. Clara saw the application and gasped. "You're not actually considering. She needs work. We have positions open." After everything she did, if I ban her from working here, I'm no better than she was. But she'll get no special treatment. She'll earn minimum wage to start, clean the same rooms, follow the same rules. Monday came with Vanessa's interview. She sat across from Alicia, her designer clothes replaced with a simple dress from Target, her hands that had never held a mop trembling slightly. Why should I hire you? Alicia asked. I need the work. The words seemed to physically hurt her. That's not what I asked. Why should I hire you? Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Because I'll work harder than anyone. Because I need to prove something. To whom? To myself. To my children. She swallowed hard. To you. I don't need your proof. I need reliable workers who treat everyone with respect. Can you do that? I can learn. Alicia made her decision. You start tomorrow. 5:30 morgens sharp. Clara will train you. One complaint from anyone, and you're gone. As Vanessa left, Clara shook her head. You're either a saint or crazy. Neither. I'm just someone who believes in second chances. 3 months had passed. The Grandmont Hotel had become the most sought-after venue in the city, not for its opulence, but for its integrity. The morning light streamed through the pristine windows as Alicia performed a new ritual, personally greeting the morning shift, thanking each worker by name. Vanessa, Jennifer now, was among them, her uniform immaculate, her cart organized with the precision of someone who'd learned that work could be dignity if approached with respect. She'd survived 2 months, enduring the whispers of those who recognized her, never complaining, never shirking. Good morning, Jennifer, Alicia said. Good morning, Miss Bennett. Their eyes met briefly. No forgiveness had been asked for or offered, but something had shifted, an understanding that transformation was possible, even if redemption remained distant. At 9 a.m., Alicia convened her leadership team. The hotel's profits had increased by 40%, but more importantly, employee satisfaction was at an all-time high. The scholarship fund has its first graduates, Luis announced. 3 employees' kids starting college this fall, full rides. And the profit-sharing checks go out this week, Clara added. Some of these people have never had a savings account before. The morning brought another victory. The state attorney general's office announced 15 arrests in the corruption scandal, with Carter as the star witness. His testimony had exposed a network of embezzlement across 7 luxury hotels. At noon, Alicia stood before a gathered crowd in the ballroom. Business leaders, city officials, employees, and press had come for a special announcement. 6 months ago, she began, I was invisible in this room. Today, we announced the Bennett Foundation, dedicated to helping service workers industry-wide gain education, legal support, and pathways to ownership. The applause was thunderous. The foundation would be funded by a percentage of the hotel's profits, plus donations from the growing number of businesses embracing the dignity model. After the announcement, an unexpected guest approached, Gregory Whitmore. He'd aged 20 years and 3 months, his silver hair now white, his confident bearing replaced with humility. I came to apologize, he said simply. Your wife works here now. I know. She told me that you gave her a chance. He paused. We lost everything because of our greed, our cruelty. You lost your father, your childhood, your education, because of people like us. And yet you gave her work. Everyone deserves the dignity of honest work. I'm starting over. A small accounting firm will hire me as a junior associate, starting at the bottom at 58. He attempted a smile. I wanted to thank you for showing us what we should have seen all along, that people are people regardless of their position. After he left, Hale approached. You've changed more than just this hotel. Have I? Sometimes I still feel like that Maid, waiting for someone to tell me I don't belong here. That feeling keeps you human. The moment you stop remembering where you came from is the moment you become what you fought against. That evening, the hotel hosted its first community gala, not for the elite, but for the workers who kept the city running. Bus drivers, teachers, nurses, cleaners, all dining in the same ballroom where Alicia had been humiliated. She served them personally, not as a servant, but as a host honoring her guests. Darius gave a speech about his sister, about their father's dream, about how change happens, one person, one stand, one moment of courage at a time. My sister didn't just take back a hotel, he said. She took back dignity for thousands of workers who thought they'd never matter. As the evening wound down, Jennifer approached Alicia in the service corridor. For a moment, they stood facing each other, the former tormentor and the former victim, now employer and employee, but somehow, finally, just two women. I was wrong, Jennifer said quietly. About everything. About you, about what matters, about who deserves respect. I don't expect forgiveness. Good, because forgiveness isn't mine to give. It belongs to everyone you hurt. I know. I'm trying to earn it. Every toilet I clean, every floor I mop, I think about how I treated the people who did this for me. I was a monster. You were a product of your environment. The question is whether you'll choose to be different now. I'm trying. Then keep trying. The next morning, Alicia stood in her father's favorite spot across the street from the hotel. The building gleamed in the sunrise, but it wasn't the physical structure that had changed most. It was what it represented. Clara joined her. The inspector's report came in. We got the highest rating in the city's history. Good. The Times wants to do a feature. The maid who revolutionized luxury. Tell them it wasn't just me. It was every worker who ever stood up, spoke out, or refused to be invisible. What's next? Clara asked. You've accomplished everything. Alicia pulled out a folder. The building next door is for sale. I want to turn it into affordable housing for service workers. And after that, there's a chain of hotels in bankruptcy. We could expand the dignity model, show that treating workers well isn't just right, it's profitable. Your father's dream? No, this is bigger than his dream. He dreamed of owning one building. I dream of changing an entire industry. As they walked back to the hotel, Alicia's phone buzzed with a message from a maid at another hotel. Thank you for showing us we matter. She thought of all the mornings she'd whispered that today would be different, all the humiliation she'd endured, all the times she'd been told to know her place. She knew her place now. It was here, in this moment, in this movement, showing the world that dignity wasn't determined by wealth or position, but by how we treat each other. The Grandmont Hotel stood as proof that change was possible, that the invisible could become undeniable, that a maid could become a revolutionary simply by refusing to accept that some people matter less than others. Inside, the morning shift was starting. Jennifer was teaching a new hire how to fold fitted sheets, the same technique Clara had taught Alicia years ago. The cycle continued, but with a crucial difference. Everyone knew they mattered now. Alicia walked through the front doors, never the service entrance, never again, and into her hotel. Her father's dream had become her foundation, but what she was building now was entirely her own. The brass nameplate by the door had been updated. Where it once read the Grandmont Hotel, it now said the Grandmont Hotel, a Bennett property, where everyone matters. And for the first time in the hotel's 100-year history, that was actually true. What invisible person in your life might be carrying a story, a struggle, or a strength you've never bothered to see? And what might change if you looked at them, really look for the first time? If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful tales of justice, transformation, and the dignity every human being deserves.